François, it's nice to meet you. Nice to have this interview.
Nice to meet you.
I learned that you've spent more than 50 years teaching languages and were recognized internationally for your work in language education. What originally inspired this lifelong passion for teaching?
Okay, I don't even know how to start. Actually, I think that it started at the age of 6, and I'm going to explain. At the age of 6, I'm from a big family, 6 kids, and my father thought that to solve the problem of the housing, because apartments were small, I'm going to put all the boys in the boarding schools. The girls stay home, the boys in the boarding school. So I went to a boarding school. And in that boarding school, there were people from all over the world. We had people from Spain, Portugal, Africa, the United States, China, Vietnam. You can name the country, and sure, someone was from that country. And the principal would bring a child, who did not understand one word of French, and literally plant him in front of the desk. And at the beginning, the child was completely lost, not understanding anything at all. And I noticed that after a few weeks, I could tell that he was showing interest. And after 3 months, he was speaking like me. In the boarding school, the parents were coming on Saturday to pick up the kids. And I noticed that it was not the same for the parents. So I always thought, there is something about learning at a young age. When I came to New York, at the beginning, I was teaching adults. At some point, I was also teaching at Marymount College. And there were thousands of schools for adults, but not a single one for young kids, let alone babies. So I decided to start with babies, 6 months old. I would work with them and, of course, with their parents. It goes without saying. And see, I didn't start immediately with the 6 month old. I started first with the 3, then 2, then up to, and finally 6 months, and always with parents. And I noticed that they were developing an understanding very easily, and I tried different methods, and I took 2 groups, and I realized there are things that work well and things that do not work so well. And I made note of all of this. That's how I developed my method based on communication and understanding before speaking, and certainly speaking before writing or reading. And later on, it helped me a lot when I started to teach adults.
You developed the Thibaut technique after decades of observing students learn. So what makes your method different from traditional language learning approaches?
I believe that subtle details are going to make a big difference between someone who learns something and remembers for life and someone who is going to forget everything in just a few weeks. And all of this, I learned it by working with kids. So there are many elements in it. You don't learn by starting with conjugation. You don't learn that way. I remember one time, maybe within the first few weeks that I was in New York, I was with a friend who was also French, and we were speaking obviously French. And the sales girl, asked me the question, "Are you French?" I said, "Yes." "Parlez-vous français?" Which is, "Do you speak French?" Okay. And she looked at me like this and said, "Je parle, tu parles, il parle, nous parlons, vous parlez, il parle." She conjugated the verb. It's like hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis, hablan. because that's the way she learned. And she told me later on that she was really very uncomfortable in the French class. Learning a language is, before anything else, communication. You have to be able to communicate. Okay. You notice that my accent is charming. It's charming in any language. Okay. And there are many explanations to that. Okay. Number one, when you learn after the age of 12 and a half, you are less likely, it's not impossible, but you are less likely to have a perfect accent. And after all, if you can communicate, if people understand you, it's fine. And so the Thibaut technique combines many different things. One, emotion. Emotion is extremely important to me because there is a link between emotion and memory. We remember things that affected us either positively or negatively. Okay, you don't really remember lists of words. Okay, you have to learn them in a context, perhaps in a story. Okay, and also humor is important. Okay, humor is very, very important. Okay, and so you can adapt that, and like kids are very curious. Do you think that a kid is more likely to remember the word for pen? Okay, and if you just say this is a pen, okay, like this, or if you go a little bit further and you hide it behind your back and you say, oh, what is it? Oh, I have something behind my back. Ah, what is it? And so the kids are all looking at you like this. And by the time you give the word, the pen to the child, I can guarantee you that he will remember it for life. And same for adults. Of course, you are not going to do the same thing for adults. But for adults, the difference between kids and adults is that kids, you give them a certain number of facts and they are going to discover the rules by themselves. And they are going to develop some kind of intuition for when to use this or when to use that. Adults, you give them the rules. And at the end of the day, they don't remember. And so it would be better for adults to, like if you want to explain the difference between ser and estar, instead of saying you use ser in this case and in this case and in that case, if you give them a certain number of examples, okay, like soy profesor or estoy preocupado, so, and you let them guess, why do I say soy professor? If you can inverse the process and let them guess if they have 30 short sentences, okay, and some are with ser, some are with estar, they are going to find out and they will develop a sense. And that's much better than learning rules by heart. At the university, the professor does a lecture and and you listen and you write, and until you have no more ink in the pen, okay, and you go out of the class. Oh, you have pages and pages, but you remember nothing. So it's not what you teach; it's what the student remembers. That really makes the difference. And so that's what I think. It's a combination of things, and certainly giving confidence is important also.
I really liked the pen example.
Yes.
So, because your teaching emphasizes conversation and real life interaction from the very beginning, why is that so important for fluency and confidence?
Because confidence changes everything. And if you people think oh, I can't learn a language. I just can't learn a language. Actually, everybody can learn a language, but you have to give confidence to the student. I remember one time, a long time ago, a lady a French lady asked me, so she said, my parents don't understand English. And so when we go to France, I wish my husband could speak with my parents. Okay, can you teach my husband? He cannot speak. Can you take him? I said, I can try. We had the first lesson was on Friday morning. I remember exactly like if it's yesterday. And I was here, he was in front of me, in person, but I could feel he was shaking like this. I understood the problem. So I said, Bob, I'm really, really sorry. I have a headache. Can we please just go downstairs? There is a coffee shop and I will not charge you. Okay. So we went downstairs and we spoke in English. I got to know him. He was an artist. He was shy in any language. Okay. And a nice man and also very smart. And we connected a little bit. Okay. So 1 week later, on a Friday again, here is Bob in front of me. He was a little bit more relaxed, but not exactly what I wanted. So I said, I'm really, really sorry, Bob. I have again a headache. Can we go downstairs? And we went downstairs and we spoke mostly about art, since he was an artist, and a little bit about New York, because we were both living in New York. And by the third week, he was much more relaxed, and I started to teach him. Bob actually was doing fine. He was not, he's not going to speak a lot, even in English. Okay. And I learned later that he had no problem communicating with his in-laws. Okay. And I was very happy about that. And so the problem with Bob was the lack of confidence. Okay. And nothing else. And with kids, working with babies, I was cheating at the beginning, meaning I would make sure to have them win at the beginning, because win is, for example, you can imagine that babies who don't speak are not going to say anything. But if you have a lot of flashcards on the floor, okay, and an elephant listening to the radio, or El Águila juega al tenis, okay, and if you have 20 like this, and the baby crawls and goes and picks up exactly the card that you are asking for, he wins. And like this, everybody, all the parents, okay, and so the child is winning. How do you transfer this to adults? At the very first lesson, by the end of the first lesson, the student has to be able to say something, not to conjugate verbs. If a complete beginner by the end of the first lesson can answer questions like, where do you live? Okay, and do you like this? Do you like that? If he can speak about his likes and dislikes, okay. Do you prefer this or that? It's the aha moment, or wait a minute, okay, I can actually understand and answer. That's a big motivation for the student. So conversation also creates emotional memory. And so you have to, when I said that subtle details make a big difference, there are a lot of details. Of course, we cannot see all of them today. But every detail is important.
And, that question of transferring things from children over to adults is a topic that you already talked about, that a lot of people feel like they can't learn a language because they're too old, right? So, and you've taught both children and adults for many years. What exactly did working with young children teach you about how adults can learn languages more effectively?
Yes. So kids taught me one of the greatest lessons in education. Language, rather than saying language is learned, we could say the kids don't learn the language. They acquire the language. And that makes a difference. So you want, if possible, you want the adults to acquire the language. But so you could tell me, oh, okay, an adult learning the elephant is listening to the radio could become she is listening to the radio. So here you are not saying a woman is she and a man is he. They learn through pictures, okay, and because he is listening to the radio, okay, and so all the visual aids that I developed for kids, you can adapt them to adults, and so it's very, very important. Also, with kids, you don't want to start with anything that is abstract. You want to start with something that they can touch, that they can see, okay, that they can feel, or that they can translate with an action. And so that's much. Instead of translating into another language, the translation here is the picture. Okay, and I don't know. For example, if I tell you in any language, okay, and the hair is the part of the body that is above the head. Are you going to understand as well as if I take, for example, Professor Thibaut and they say this is his hair, the hair, or if I say this is my hair, and you are more likely to understand that way, right? It's just much better to use either concrete material or visual aids. So that's what I learned with kids, and always humor is important. Yesterday, I was working with a group of adults. They are very advanced, and the class is 1.5 hours, so we stop in the middle. We have a pause, and so I said, after the pause, is that okay if I have a friend with me? Is that okay if he attends the lesson? And everyone said, "Oh yes, of course, we yes, by all means." And I said, "Come here." And I said, "Here's my friend." They were all laughing.
It shows how engaging the classes and how fun the classes are.
Yes, fun is very important. That's really very, very important because if students enjoy what they are learning, they will learn much better.
So this leads me into another question. Many students say your classes feel very different from traditional language classes. What experience are you trying to create for them?
Yeah, I don't want students to feel like they are in a class. I want them to feel like they are with friends and they are just speaking with friends. So when you teach, you have to make the student completely forget that he is in a class. Okay, and because teaching a language is mostly teaching people how to communicate. And as soon as they start speaking, then you have to choose something of interest to them. Okay. Whether it's travel or politics or business, medicine, okay, history, whatever is of interest to them. And this applies to kids as well. I have an 8-year-old girl who has been with me for a while, and she was showing a lot of interest. And all of a sudden, no interest at all. Okay. I knew that she liked horses. So I came up with a story about a horse, a small white horse. His name is Snow. And she wanted, and every week something is going to happen to Snow. And she wants to know what's going to happen to Snow. So she has all my interest, okay, and all my, I have her attention completely, because that's something that is of interest to her. So this is very important, to choose subjects that are of interest to the students. I have a lady who was taking classes at the age of 95. Okay. And this lady was amazing. And she was interested in so many things. And I really enjoyed working with her. And so my youngest student is 6 months, but the oldest is 95. And and I think that the combination is interesting to me.
So you've spoken a bit about this, but you often speak about emotion, humor, and visual memory for language learning. Why do these elements help students remember and progress faster? What is it about them?
Because the brain is emotional. If I give you, for example, 20 words to memorize, most likely you are going to forget them very quickly. But if I make a connection between the words, if you learn the words in a context, whether with adults or with kids, I do not teach words. I teach full sentences. Okay. And for example, here, I do not teach just one word. Here you have a complete sentence. For example, El águila juega al tenis. So if you connect the words, okay, and you teach the students complete sentences instead of words, it's much, much better. For example, kids are absolutely crazy about this picture. Okay. So they are likely to remember because it's funny for them. It's funny. So it's, they can learn full sentences just because they want to get the card. If they tell you the sentence, you give them the card. Many people believe that learning is only intellectual. Okay. But memory works much more efficiently with emotion and imagination.
You created award-winning educational materials like the Professor Toto series, right? That's what it's called?
Yes, Professor Toto series, yes.
Professor Toto. So how did those projects influence the way that you teach today?
I think that Professor Toto confirmed something I strongly believed already, that students learn better when they enjoy the experience. So the series Professor Toto combined humor, repetition, music, songs, storytelling, and communication. So children became emotionally attached to the characters because there are a few characters in the series, and so for them it didn't feel like work. And what I say to the parents usually is, Do not ask your child to watch Professor Toto like if you are asking him to do homework. Okay, and on the opposite, you want to say, oh, you were very good today. Oh, you can watch Professor Toto. It's a reward. Okay, and make it short so that the student want to to see it more. You have to stop before a child no longer shows interest for something. So, and for adults, it's the same. You have to to manage it in such a way not to keep doing the same thing. You have to alternate. You have to alternate so that the student is always surprised with something new. And so I think that's important. And to keep the humor, that's really important. And that's what I say to the teachers at JustSpanish.
So you are now launching, you just mentioned JustSpanish, right? All one word. What inspired you to create a platform focused exclusively on Spanish?
Okay. There are many platforms teaching all languages and math and science and everything that you can imagine. I believe in specialization. Okay, and because I think that when you specialize, you can create a better experience. So Spanish is one of the languages, maybe the most useful and widely spoken languages. Okay, and in the world, and especially in the United States, more and more people want to learn in order to travel. There are many reasons: travel, work, family, business, or simply personal enrichment. So I wanted something small and not. I don't want a factory. Okay, if you look at all of these platforms, they brag about having 12,000 tutors in Spanish. One is saying 27,000 tutors in Spanish. How do you choose the right tutor for you? I think it's difficult, and usually in these platforms there's no interview. And by the way, these platforms, they are started by people who know very well the technology, okay, but know nothing about education or languages. They just know the technology. I'm the exact opposite. I know nothing about the technology, nothing. And in fact, I have a hard time. Yes, I can write an email and things like that, but don't ask me too much in the technology. I believe in human connection, certainly not robots. If you take something like Duolingo, it's list of words, okay, and it cannot hurt if you do that in addition to human interaction. But can you learn with just Duolingo? Honestly, I don't think so.
And there are so many apps out there through technology, but not through human connection. And as you said, language is a social tool, a communication tool.
Yes, exactly. A language is meant to enable you to communicate with other people. So that's the big difference.
So this question is kind of connected, but it's more specifically about how you've curated the tutors on your platform. So today, in addition to Duolingo, there are also many platforms with thousands of tutors, right? Why did you decide to build a curated platform with a limited number of carefully selected tutors?
Yes, because by working with a limited number of tutors, Marcela is my assistant. We interviewed together every single tutor. We got to know him or her on many levels. Some are very good with beginners. Others would not be comfortable at all with beginners, but would be very good for high intermediate or advanced. Some like spontaneous conversation. Other are good with something more structured. So at the time of the free consultation, we made notes. Okay, we spent a lot of time doing all of this. And at the time of the consultation, we will be able to advise the student. I believe that in the long run, it's really beneficial to the students, okay? Because I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm a teacher before anything else. And for me, I care about what I do, and I care about the teaching part. I want students to learn, to be able to communicate. You cannot achieve that with just any teacher.
Now, JustSpanish offers 3 categories of teachers, right? Could you just explain the philosophy behind these different levels and how students might benefit from them?
Sure. Our core teachers are very good professional teachers who are ideal for many students. Maybe not for all students, but for many students. The advanced teachers usually bring some kind of additional specialization, okay, or experience, whether in conversation, business Spanish, kids, exam preparation, test prep, and or other areas. The master teachers, that's our highest level of expertise and experience. They may work with executives or professionals, diplomats, very serious learners, and they are. We have these 3 levels. All of them are good for someone. The key here is a teacher who can be extremely good for this student, maybe less good for that student. You have to take into account many details. And so we believe that the consultation is going to be extremely beneficial because Marcela and I, as I said before, made notes about every teacher. And once we get to know the student, the level of the student, the learning style of the student, we will be able to advise accordingly.
And how exactly does JustSpanish help students find that right teacher instead of leaving them maybe overwhelmed by hundreds of thousands of profiles like the other apps or websites do?
Yes, I think that this guidance is beneficial because at the time of the consultation, we speak with the student and we try to, as we spent a lot of time getting to know every teacher, we will spend also the necessary time to get to know the student, to get to know the goals of the student. Why do you want to learn Spanish? Do you want to learn Spanish only because you are going to spend 2 weeks in Barcelona and you just want to be able to order your meal? Or do you want to have a real conversation? Do you want to be able to make friends among Spanish-speaking people? All of this is important. Try to choose, between 5,000 or 10,000, 27,000. Not easy at all. And so it becomes like a lottery. Okay, and so that's why I think that Marcela and I can really be some kind of guidance, and that's much better for the student, and it's free.
I understand that students will also have the opportunity to meet other learners in places in New York, like for coffee, pizza, or even a walk in Central Park to practice their Spanish together and maybe even make friends. So how did you come to this idea? How did you get to it?
Okay. Yes, that's actually very important to me because I believe in human interaction. Okay, and so they are going to have the best of two worlds. Number one, private lessons with native speakers. That's really the best scenario because you learn much, much more with private lessons than with group lessons. And so they have this. But also, they have the opportunity to meet other people, for example, in a coffee shop, and you get to speak with other students, okay, and who are also learning Spanish, and so there is an interaction. You share experiences, okay, and the social connection is important too. And in a city like New York, everybody wants to make friends. Here, you have the opportunity to make friends among people who have the exact same interest as you, learning Spanish, okay. So that's why I say you have the best of two worlds. In a Mexican restaurant in New York, why not?
I'm sure there would be plenty of opportunities for Mexican food, Spanish food, food from any
Yes,
Spanish
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That sounds great. Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. Well, now moving on to my last question. How do you see JustSpanish differing from large platforms and apps such as Duolingo? And what is your long-term vision for the company in general?
Okay. Apps can be useful for vocabulary practice or short exercises, and large marketplaces certainly offer quantity. But language learning is deeply human. A real conversation includes spontaneity, humor, emotion, encouragement, perhaps human chemistry. And chemistry is important. For example, between me and Bob, there was a good chemistry. At least when I saw him extremely scared and literally shaking, okay, I understood the problem, and we made a connection. Okay, so I think that this is important, and cultural understanding is also important. Okay, technology alone cannot fully replace that. You cannot replace a human being with a robot. Okay, and even though today I understand that it's done more and more, our vision is to combine the convenience of modern online learning with the warmth and the personalization that people often feel is missing today. So long term, I would like JustSpanish not to become known as the biggest platform. That's not at all what I want. Rather, as a platform that is curated and respected, and where you see more interest of the students rather than the quantity of the students, having 200,000 students, 500,000 students. That's not what I'm aiming.